Anyway, so there are six. Are we rolling? Okay. I'll show you. I'll show you. Fun. I don't mind my track phone. I just have to get my underneath full screen. It's $200 to get fixed. That was one drop. He was on the road.
Especially for little ones.
We are getting ready to start. Don't be disruptive. We are now back in session. We'll now approve the agenda for the Board of Education's regular meeting. Mrs. Haddad, are there any addendums to the agenda?
There were updates to the agenda and the board was notified of these earlier today.
Thank you. Are there any items, Board, are there any items you wish to move from either the superintendent's consent agenda or the board's consent agenda? May we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Ready. Roll call, please.
Mr. Borland?
Aye.
Mrs. Bullock?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Street?
Aye.
Mrs. Van Manen? Aye.
Board quote. Mr. Borland, will you do us the honors, please?
I will. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And that is from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Fantastic. Public comments. Ms. Cortez, do we have anyone signed up to speak to the board this evening?
We have one person, and it's Lori Edinburgh.
At this time, we welcome any members of the public who would like to address the board to do so. Thank you for being here tonight. And I take out my glasses in the interest of respecting time of all who are present, speakers are to limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. All speakers will be notified of the remaining time by the mounted monitors behind the dais. When 30 seconds are remaining, the timer will turn yellow and then red when the time has ended. Supplemental written materials are welcome. Please hand the materials to Mr. Grady, who is seated to the right of the podium, and he will deliver it to the board secretary. We greatly value all comments from the public, but in order to adhere to the board policy and accomplish the work already on the agenda, the board will not respond this evening. Ms. Sutterberg.
Good evening. Tonight I wanted to come and speak to the board on behalf of the Yes for D20 Kids Committee. We wrapped up our group last night, and one of the things we wanted to start doing and have done a little bit of is to just publicly thank our voters for supporting the bond. Lots of excitement among the schools right now with what's going to be coming. Excitement among staff, student, parents. We've talked to Mr. Gregory. He's already got a phone call for when dirt is going to start flying. So it's that kind of excitement around here. So we just wanted to say thank you so much to our voters. Thanks so much to the support. There were lots of comments and dialogue that went between our committee and lots of our voters, and so it was just great conversation, good answers. We appreciate how you all detailed out the plan and the specifics for the bond funds, because that really helped people see what's coming and how we'll move forward. $230 million is a big number, so it's nice to be able to break it down and see what's coming and how it's going to move forward. And then we're looking forward to things starting back up again in January when the personnel are in place to get things going to start putting a timeline schedule together. But just a thank you to our district patrons and parents and voters and all of you for getting this done and for all the great things that will happen for our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Board comments. Let's start with Mr. Borland tonight.
Thank you. Just real quickly, thank you for your indulgence as I went back and watched the Air Force roundly and soundly beat the Army. That was a good time. Had an opportunity to be at Pine Creek High School for their Veterans Day celebration. And I'm not going to get into it because I couldn't do it justice, but I will say that I heard the best speech I have ever heard delivered to a group of high school people by the Marine Colonel who was their guest speaker. So if you're interested, I can expound on that a little bit if you want to catch me offline. But we've had an election since we last met. And a lot of folks supported Hillary Clinton and a lot of folks supported Donald Trump. Mr. Trump, of course, won. And on Wednesday morning, the sun came up, as it has every day since the election, and as it surely would have if Hillary Clinton had won. Mr. Trump won the election, but governing is much different and much more difficult than winning an election. Mr. Trump has earned the opportunity to govern, and we should give him the chance to govern. If we don't like how he does it, in 4 years, we can change it. That is how the United States of America works, and how it has worked for about 230 years. I have personally lived through the Cold War, the assassination of a president, his brother, and Martin Luther King, the unrest surrounding the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War and its protests, student unrest, and the Weather Underground terrorism, Watergate, 9/11, and the 2 ensuing wars following. I am convinced that the United States of America will be just fine. We also had a bond election since we last met. The children and the parents and the patrons of District 20 won that election by the widest margin in recent recent memory. A 60-40 margin of victory might be called a landslide or a mandate, but in any case, it may reasonably be interpreted as a vote of confidence in the way this board and this administration lead and govern. And I have to say that I'm enormously proud and humbled to sit at this dais with you truly remarkable people. However, we should remember that if we ever fail to lead and govern with integrity and intelligence and inclusiveness and transparency, the good people of this district also have the right and the obligation to effect a change. So, again, congratulations to all who worked so hard on the campaign. But most of all, congratulations to the students, parents, the patrons, and the staff of District 20. And now, Dr. Hatchell and Mr. Gregory, let's build us some schools.
Colonel Hart.
I can't follow that. Good evening.
Mrs. Bullock.
Oh.
Oh, that either, like being in class.
Smart kid already stole the goods.
In my simple words, I just wanted to say thank you to the voters for passing 3A. But I did have the opportunity in the last couple of weeks to visit a couple classrooms at Da-Vinci, Discovery Canyon, Antelope Trails, and it's always fun to see the great things that are happening in our schools. But of course, my favorite day of the year and my top thing I will miss about being on the school board is Veterans Day. And gosh, I'm just so proud of our kids and our teachers and our staff. I had the opportunity to attend assemblies at Antelope Trails, TCA, Discovery Canyon, and the parade at Doug Valley. And I have to say that we definitely have the most respectful students, maybe in the country, especially compared to some of the things that are happening around the country. But you know, our kids are top notch. Jim Downey, who you remember, Dr. Hatchell introduced him at the all-staff assembly. The cute little 103-year-old survivor of Pearl Harbor came and spoke at Discovery Canyon. Apparently the kids actually couldn't hear him. There was something wrong with his mic, I found out later. Glenn and I heard him quite well, and he was fabulous. But the kids couldn't hear him, and but they sat there so quietly and respectfully. And in fact, I turned to Glenn and I said, Glenn, look at that audience. Do you see one cell phone? And he went, I don't. And both of us were looking and we did not see one cell phone out of 1,200 high school students in the year 2016. Spectacular. I was dumbfounded. In fact, I asked Mr. King, what did you do to them? You know, and he said, we just taught them that respect. They just do it. And so, just so proud of our kiddos and our district and all that we do to honor veterans.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
You, you're gonna pick me. So, Mrs. Undenberg, you anticipated my remarks, and as well as everyone else's. I wanted to express my deep gratitude to the many hours that the Yes for D20 Kids devoted. I see some members here in addition to you, but and so please know how valuable and appreciated all the time and effort is that you put forward that resulted in this wonderful election, our bond passage. And likewise, I wanted to thank Mr. Strebe for his leadership of the board throughout this, 9-month, it seemed like forever, a long, long time process. And I was, and as always, impressed by the wisdom of Dr. Hatchell's management of all the resources of his staff, and especially the MVP, Mr. Gregory, who went to every single bond information meeting, and forget that, and in addition to all the other aspects of this bond that required his utmost attention. He's not even paying attention, Mr. Greg. So, I know, and I appreciate that humility in Mr. Gregory, but you are the star, and we are so grateful for all that you did. And then, turning to other joyous matters, on last Wednesday, I went to the first of the several Veterans Day assemblies I went, but of course Wednesday was the day after the election, and I have to tell you there was nothing more reaffirming and uplifting than third grade voices singing in unison the Star Spangled Banner. It was spectacular, as was every other assembly I attended. Foothills, Pioneer, Liberties, and they each one had its own unique spin on it, but each one brought out very important aspects of why we honor our veterans and active service members on that day, and I'm so grateful that we do honor them in that way. So.
Thank you. Ms. Van Meter.
I can't think of a single thing to say that hasn't been said about the folks who worked on 3A. Thank you. Thank you very much. I said it in DAC, and I will say that again for those of you who weren't in DAC, some of you were, that we were, Lori Edinburgh and Will Timby did a phenomenal job of co-chairing that campaign. And we're really, really grateful for all of the citizens. There were people who there were hundreds and hundreds of people who put up signs, did, tons of things, tons and tons of work around town, and gave of their personal finances, and of course political contributions are not tax deductible. So it's just generosity. It's pure generosity when people do that. So I just really appreciated that, and it's a marvelous thing to see people come together for our kids and our community. So I want to say thanks again for all of that, and thanks again to, I think when Mrs. Johnson said, Dr. Hatchell and Mr. Gregory worked super hard. There were many other staff members in this building who worked hard, and the hardest thing I think is to work on something that matters very deeply to you, but they're in the positions of being required to remain neutral. That I think is more challenging than being able to just to passionately go for it and say whatever you want to say. Mr. Gregory did all 5 of those information nights and was neutral and simply gave the information. And I think that's a very challenging spot to be in. So I agree with Mrs. Johnson, he's the MVP. So I wanted to say thank you for that. I also wanted to say today, I wanted to say thank you to all the folks in schools who've been inviting me out to do all these fabulous things. Today I got to go eat turkey and dressing at lunch at Wolford Elementary's Grandpersons Day. And while I don't have any grandchildren, I got to be a grandperson. I love it. I said, Grandpersons Day. She said, oh yes, anyone who's grand in the life of a child can be there, Mrs. Van Meter. So anyhow, I got to eat turkey and dressing with some kids whose grands weren't able to be there today. So that was really fun. And I'm looking forward to Aspen Valley's Thanksgiving feast tomorrow. They always do a fantastic job. I've had the opportunity to attend both Rock Rimmon and DCC Middle School's IB evaluation team visits. I love those visits because they bring in IB evaluators from somewhere else, and most of those people, a lot of times, they have never been here before, or if they have been in Colorado Springs, they've never been to the school that they're assigned to. It's just, random. And I love being there with them and hearing their questions and seeing the district and seeing our schools through the eyes of someone from completely the outside. It's really a fascinating process to be able to do that. I also, though, like the rest of you, just love Veterans Day. And Mrs. Bullock, I was thinking the same thing. It's like that, I'm going to miss that when I'm off the board next year. It's phenomenal. I had the opportunity to go to DCC Middle School where they hosted a reception. I was able to go to Air Academy High School, see all the kids whose parents are actively serving. Amazing stuff. I went to Aspen Valley where they stand by the flagpole. They had a bagpipe player who played taps. George Stone talked about the history of Veterans Day, Armistice Day, and he brought out something really important to the kids. He said, we had an election, right? And he said, however you felt about all of that, this moment in Veterans Day, this is not about politics, about whether you like the president or don't like the president, or like the president-elect or don't like the president-elect, no matter how you feel about all of this. This is celebrating the people who made sure that we have this system so that we're here. He said those who are serving and those who gave their lives for this country. It was a really, really great way to look at it for those older kids. At Rock Rimmon, they had a teacher who was a first grade teacher who is herself a veteran, and she went through the IB learner profile as seen through the eyes of someone, how it supports the military. Balanced, communicator, risk taker, knowledgeable, all of those sorts of things, reflective. It was really cool the way she did it, but I have to say, Explorer had a parent who had made an absolutely amazing speech. He is the father, he's active duty in the Navy. He's the father of a youngster there at Explorer. And in his speech, he talked about the importance of all of the service, all of the different branches of our service. But then he said, when people ask me why I do what I do, why am I leaving next week to get on a ship and I'll be gone for 6 months and I won't be with my family, for 6 months, he said, they ask me why I do what I do. And he said, I tell them because I don't like bullies. And he proceeded to explain to kids that, bullies, he said, if you think that when you leave school, you will never be exposed to a bully again, I'm sorry, it's not true. Bullies grow up, sometimes they continue to be bullies, and some of those bullies even get to be leaders of nations. And he explained it in that way. And I thought it was very cool. In that way, he talked about defending our country in a way that I thought made a lot of sense to elementary school kids, and it was a very great message. I love what we do for Veterans Day here, and I want to thank everybody we don't just come in and have an assembly and talk about it for 20 minutes and leave. We really have some outstanding speakers and just some outstanding ways of doing it, and every school does it differently. I appreciated the program that was put together so that I could make 5 of those in one day and make it all fit into my schedule and all that kind of stuff, and I know all the rest of you did the same. And I just want to say thank you so much for all that, and in that vein, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is your favorite time of the year, isn't it? As I reflect back, it was really great to see the Veterans Day ceremonies. Got to see, Thursday night I was at, where was I? Prairie Hills. And then on Friday went to Rampart. And I just drive back and forth. I went from Rampart to Woodman Roberts to Ranch Creek to DCC, and then went to Douglas Valley. And my wife joined me Thursday night as well as the DCC. And then we had lunch. I had the day off. And so on my day off, this is my wife tagging along. But she refused to get up at 6 a.m. to go to the 7:30 Rampart. She's not a morning person. And then we went to the Douglas Valley, and what struck me, and well, what struck her too, is while we're at Douglas Valley, our son went to kindergarten there. And he went to kindergarten, they went there 1 year because we moved into Briargate, and Academy International wasn't finished, or wasn't done. So he went to Douglas Valley, and so sometimes when I hear folks say that, oh, well, we got a choice when we go, or not so much choice in this, we got to overflow, we got to go here. Imagine living in Briargate and your kindergarten or overflow is over on the Air Force Academy. So we did that, but my wife goes in there, and it's kind of nice, I have a certain badge that I can walk around a little bit, and we walked back to Josh's kindergarten classroom. And I was not prepared to have my wife just break out in tears. But when you realize that, for those that don't know me, our son is almost 25, and imagine, and that's the last time that she had seen. I mean, I've been in there. That's the last time that she had seen the classroom was at the end of his kindergarten year. And then they went to international. And I bring that up because we moved in 1996 into Briargate. We lived in District 20 pretty much the entire time. And I remember Academy International being built. And the reason that gets built is because there's a bond. And the district has been very supportive. But when I started on this board, there were 100,000 people in this district, and now we have about 108,000 people that live in this district. 8,000 people have moved into this district in the past 5 years. And I know there's going to be a lot of growth. And I'm reminded every day that we have a very supportive district, and I want to thank all of those that were involved, the committee, administration, everyone, the administration, they have to do it all on their own time. And it's amazing how much work everybody put into that. So I want to thank the patrons of District 20, the administration, the committee, for doing what you do. It's fantastic. And we get reminded of, again, those little triggers that I have visiting the various things. We got to hear all of the songs of each of the military, and my wife reminded me that, said, well, your dad your dad is retired Air Force, your brother is retired Army, your son-in-law is active duty Army, he's an Army captain. My niece's husband is an active duty Marine captain. What we would consider one of our adopted, everyone has adopted kids that, your son's, daughter's friends, and everybody has adopted kids. One of our adopted kids is in the Navy, and so I'm thinking about it going, wow, all of those services are represented by people that we know, and they're the ones that, the old saying, all gave some and some gave all. And I'm reminded that this district does it really, really well when it comes to Veterans Day, and it was a fantastic thing. And one of the examples of why I think this district, or an example of a display of this district, my wife and I, on Saturday, in good fashion, we decided to go to dinner, and we decided to go to our favorite place, Chick-fil-A. And there's a story behind that I won't tell you, but we're at Chick-fil-A before we go to the Rampart football game. And we see a couple of D20 kids, and I'll tell you that I know that they were D20 kids because I can read Letterman's jackets. And when they have names on the back, I can tell you that these were some, they had won a game earlier in the day, and some of you might know who that is. But they had won a playoff game earlier in the day, and these were some of the star players that were in Chick-fil-A. And one of the things I love doing is observing kids. I don't know, I just love observing kids. And so I watched them, and my biggest question is, I think all of you know I'm big on how do people treat people. And in the last X period of time with the elections and stuff like that, it's amazing the display of how people treat people. But as we watch these high schoolers, these literally star players on the team, how they treated the people that were serving them was absolutely phenomenal. And one of the things that I notice often in D20 is it doesn't matter who you are. here's star athlete kids that often, and you could tell there's a certain swagger that they had as they were in there, and they had won, but they were absolutely polite. They were thankful, they were kind, they were nice to the people that were sitting across the counter from them. And that's one of the greatest displays. And we can talk Veterans Day, there's a lot of things we can talk about, but the fact it's great to see kids that are polite, that are nice, and I hope that they will continue to do that into their adult lives, because we don't always see that. I think we sometimes forget that one of the greatest measures of people is how they treat each other. And it was, not only did we see it at Veterans Day, we get to see it displayed all the time, and it was really neat to see, again, those kids, high schoolers, being kind and respectful to everybody that was in. Oh, they were excited and maybe a little loud, but they were very kind and respectful to everybody that they have. And I know that there are a lot of displays like that, and that's one of the great things about being a part of Academy District 20. So thank you. I'm very proud to serve with you, and I'm very proud of everybody that has been involved in everything that this district does and everything that this district stands for. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. Administration comments, Dr. Angel.
Thank you very much, and I've long said nobody does Veterans Day better than Academy 20, and I want to compliment the board. I think that every school I went to, I saw a board member at the event, so great job to you, and a nod to my dad who fought in the Korean War. Mr. Gregory.
No, thank you.
Dr. Smith.
No, thank you.
Dr. Field. Dr. Peak. Mr. Cohn. Ms. Richardson. Ms. Cortez. Ms. Kuzer. Ms. Grady. Students from Frontier Elementary participated in the 2016 Fuel Greatness Touchdown Celebration on November 15th. 35 stand out and fuel up to play 60 schools are recognized each year with the Touchdown School Award. These schools demonstrated their commitment to wellness by completing all of the school's 6 steps and by making healthy changes in their schools and communities. During the event at Sports Authority Field, students met Ed McCaffrey, danced with the Denver Broncos cheerleaders, learned how to milk a cow, and received a tour of the field and took photos with Miles, the mascot. Meg Brillschleifer, Discovery Canyon campus sophomore, was selected to the 2017 National American Choral Directors High School Honor Choir. Meg was one of 295 students out of 4,200, the top 7% to be selected for this prestigious choir, who will perform in Minneapolis, Minnesota, March 7th through 11th. And yes, I know it's snowing, and I know there's some ice on the roads, and I am already getting lots of advice.
Thank you, Dr. Hatchell. I probably should remember that my daughter-in-law's brother is Coast Guard. Okay. Yeah. Missed one. We need a motion to approve the following resolutions: 254-16, approval of matters relating to licensed personnel teachers; 255-16, approval of matters relating to licensed personnel, licensed support / specialized service provider; 256-16, approval of matters relating to classified personnel; 257-16, approval of monitoring board for policy EL 2.9, communication and support to the board; 258-16, approval of MRE for the same.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Borland?
Aye.
Mrs. Bullock?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Street?
Aye.
Mrs. Van Mater? Aye. You
Trying to move it
voted.
after I took that much time, I want to move it along some. We need a motion to approve Board of Education regular meeting minutes from November 3rd, 2016 as presented with corrections as noted.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Borland?
Aye.
Mrs. Bullock?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Street?
Aye.
Mrs. Van Mater? Aye.
Fantastic. Youth Ambassadors Program, Dr. Hatchell.
Thank you very much, Miss Manny Freeman. Is it doctor? Not yet, okay.
Let you know.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Hatchell, Mr. Street, members of the Board of Education, my colleagues, and the community for the opportunity to share a brief presentation highlighting the recent trip to China with District 20 students. Before I begin, I'd like to take